So in today's Coach's Corner book review, I am looking at Forge Your Mental Strength. This is the English language version, and it is by a friend of mine, Pierre Fieux. And he is a former finalist in the Marseillaise. He's also a winner of many national, regional competitions and some international competitions as well. Plus, Pierre is the voice of Bolistanote, the particular media coverage that the team that covers most of the nationals, most of the PPF, lots of all international competitions as well. It's a hell of a team, and he's written a number of books. I decided to buy the English version of this. I also have a French version of one of the others, but I want to give you my thoughts on Pierre's book. So I am very much about mental strength in the game of pétanque. It is, in my view, one of the most important things, and it's something that is neglected by a huge amount of players. This is quite a short little book. It is self-published. It has a number of different things. You could probably read it in maybe an hour, but that doesn't matter. It's the content that's inside that is very, very important. So one of the things that it starts with in the book is a little quiz, and this is based on Dr. James Luer, who is the person who was responsible for the inventory of psychological performance to assess mental strengths and weaknesses. So what does that basically mean? Well, you've got 25 questions that it goes through and that it asks you, such as scoring on 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 1 almost never, 5 being almost always. I'm a mentally tough competitor, for example. I find myself thinking of past mistakes or missed opportunities as I play is another one. I project the outward image of a confident player. These are just some of the questions that it asks you, and it goes through each of these questions. There are 42 of them, which then you put into your little table and you score them, and then it gives you a score analysis from good to indicating an area where you could use some improvements, for indicating a real handicap and where progress really needs addressing. Now, this is good because this is important to know where you are at the very, very beginning. It's rightly titled Know Yourself, because if you don't know yourself, if you don't know your own game, there's the title, Know Yourself. You can't know what you've got to fix. You've got to know what to work on. You can't know what to improve or where you're already particularly good. So you've got to work on these individual things. It moves on then to the foundations of your mental strength based on values. These values include things like passion, discipline, willpower, self-control, and a whole bunch of others. Then it moves on to beliefs. Now, I talked about beliefs in another video, which you'll find in my selection of videos. And things like, I play badly when I'm being watched. That's a belief that a lot of people have. I play badly when Petanque coach is filming me. That's a big one. I get so many people who say that. I don't play well if I can see my shadow in front of me when I'm actually playing. A very, very, very big excuse and a very, very big belief that I see an awful lot of people who come to me is, I started playing too late. I've only been playing for 2 years. So what you've got to do with these, and Pierre talks about this a lot, is changing the statements, changing them to a different form of statements that you can have, such as the game is never lost until someone hits 13. Very important there. Play every single shot with commitment. And he uses a great example of Henri Lacroix in the game in Grenoble in 2002 against the Thais. Talked about it in a couple of individual videos. Again, you'll find them in my list. But that was really important because Henri did not give up. It didn't matter that he was 12-11 down in the semi-final of the World Championships. He was committed and he played every shot with absolute commitment. Then Pierre moves on to automation, mental automation, the left and the right brain, and the differences between them. The left-hand side of the brain is very analytical, it's very logical, it's used to make decisions, but it can only process 5 to 10 bits of information at any time. And it's the processing of those that then allows the right side of the brain to actually execute the shot. Now, the right-hand side of the brain is very, very difficult because very, very difficult, very, very different. The left side deals with words. The right side deals with images, and this is why visualization in the game is so very, very important, because the right side can process thousands and thousands of things going on, such as the wind, the weather, the atmosphere, whether someone's moving over there, which ball you're actually looking to do. It's all of these different things, but they need to work together to produce the actual result that you want. Then he moves on to other examples of mental automation, such as kill the dog. If you've got a dog, don't go killing it. But kill the dog is a particularly good expression that is used in France. Say, for example, you are shooting this ball and your ball is exactly next to it. What a lot of players do, they focus on, I must not hit my own ball. And where focus goes, energy flows. And what happens in 9 times out of 10, unless you are trained on this, unless you have worked on this, you're going to hit your own ball out. Part of Pierre's training in the book is to not kill the dog. In other words, don't shoot your own ball. Then he talks about body language, confidence, team interactions, choosing your words well with your team interactions. There's a lot of little hints and little tips in the book that go all together to produce quite a good little volume. He talks about ideal performance state, the 12 things you've got to work on: positivity, being optimistic, self-confidence, concentration, presence, and a whole bunch of others, and gives little anecdotes about why each of them are so important. Discusses then the pillars of mental strength and the things that come from Anthony Giraud, who is a great coach for mental players, mental game within the golf and the tennis, and how they apply to the game of pétanque. Then one particular thing which I think is really, really good, which is MC4. So M to the power of C, obviously quadrupled. And that is motivation, confidence, calm, concentration, and combativeness. If you've got all of those together, then you're going to have an ideal performance state. Then he talks about training, using words to apply to your game, things like calm, things like relaxed, confident, loop, whatever it might be. These are words that can use and work with the left-hand side of the brain. Then the right-hand side of the brain, you've got to use images, because that is what that actually side of the brain works with. So this is the visualization, the seeing the shot before you even play it, using these particular things to then create the gesture that makes it real. You take the words, you take the images, then you release it, then it actually happens. Then he questions things like motivation. What gives you motivation, how you can become motivated, whether motivation is lacking, what you have to do to get that motivation. So you have to ask yourself a series of questions. What are the obstacles that may come in my way? Is it because it's winter and I can't really get outside because it's raining or it's snowing? Is there a way that I can verify that I have met these different things within the questions to see that I'm being motivated in the right way? Do I have short-term, medium-term, long-term goals? How do I achieve them? What do I have to do to achieve those? Do I need a coach? Do I need to watch more Petanque coach videos? Do I have SMART goals that are specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time frame focused? Because if you don't have these things, if you don't have measurable goals, then you might as well just chuck junk ball around and just keep staying at exactly the same level and not really push yourself. A very important thing he talks about towards the end is the fact that pétanque is still a game. It's not life or death. It's not a father worrying about whether he can feed his children. That's real stress. Being in a war zone, that's real stress. Pétanque, throwing metal balls around, is just a game. And whilst it is really important for some people, and it can produce a certain level of stress, we need to just basically calm down, to enjoy the game, to enjoy the processes of playing the game. The camaraderie, the combativeness, the passion that it can evoke without it going over the top. Because there's too much importance placed on results. We're not playing for a row of houses. This is not the final of the World Championship. unless it is the final of the World Championship, then that's a different thing altogether. So you've got to not necessarily focus on results. You've got to focus more on your performance. You've got to focus on how good was the harmony within the team. You've got to focus on how well did you deal with stress? How well did you deal with anxiety? How well did you deal with pressure? These are far more important things rather than results. I'll give you a good anecdote. People run marathons when I used to coach people for marathons, things like that. And the first question everyone ever always says is, what was your time? Who cares what your time was? You completed a marathon within a specified finishing time to achieve a medal. Now, it's exactly the same with Ironman. And again, I used to coach people for that. You had to finish within, generally it was 16 hours, sometimes it was 17 hours. Everybody got really, really focused on what was the time. Doesn't matter. You completed an Ironman. That's something incredible. You completed a marathon, an ultra marathon, whatever the case may be. These are things that are results without the actual time and the result itself being important. Just completing the race was important. The same thing happens in Petanque. You could say, tir de precision. I shot really, really well. I achieved what I wanted. And people say, what was your score in tir de precision? Well, if your score that you wanted to achieve, if you wanted to hit more than 20 points and you did it, that's an important thing for you. If you shot well, release well, if that didn't actually come off, that's not necessarily a problem. It's how you played, what you did. If you wanted to hit 40 points and you only hit 10, maybe you need a little bit of work there. These are just some of the things in Petanque. If you say, I want to get through to the main competition, that is a definitive thing. I want to be in the A competition. I don't want to be in the consulant. I don't want to be in the B or the C. These are different things. If you say, I want to beat my teammate, that's another important thing. You can work towards that. You can analyze different people so you can instill your confidence. This is the thing that he finishes the book with pretty much, is to instill the confidence. You've got to have things like affirmations. You've got to have anchors. You've also got to have alarm signals that are going wee, wee, wee in your brain. Oh my God, self one has kicked in. Self one, self two. Talk about this a lot in The Inner Game of Tennis, my first book analysis where I talk about this so much. Self one is screaming at you. You're not good enough. You always lose to John. Yeah, you don't play well when you're playing against your wife or your girlfriend or whatever the case may be. These are alarm signals, and if you're not aware of them and if you don't have tools and techniques to be able to implement to stop that, you're going to be suffering in a game. Then he gives a number of examples of relaxation, talking through different things, talking through how to calm the body down, how you have things like Jacobson's progressive relaxation. Now, obviously, you need to read these, which is a little bit difficult if you're trying to relax because basically you've got to hold the book. So what you should do, what I recommend you do, is you record this talking to yourself. So if I start it with, I'm sitting comfortably in my chair, and when I'm ready, I can close my eyes and peacefully sink into my inner space. Obviously, I'm using emphasis here. You wouldn't do that. But you record yourself saying this so that you can then listen back to it as you are actually relaxing. And what you do with the relaxation and what you do with all of the different aspects of the game is you work through to a certain level, you rinse, you repeat. Then he closes the book in a very, very cool way. He advises you to get one of his other books, the La Pétanque de Competition. It's a nice way of finishing. It's a good way of saying, I wrote a little selection of books. I recommend you start with this. I recommend you work through. So for basic level players, whether you want it in English or you want it in French, I think it's a great little book. It's a very, very good introduction to the mental game, the inner game of pétanque. And if you want something, doesn't cost much. I think it's 15 euros, so you can pick it up on Amazon. I will chuck a link in for you as well in the description, so you can rush off and buy it for yourself today. And if you see Pierre, he's normally sat on a chair with his big microphone on and his earphones, chatting away. You'll see Belustenaut, very, very bright. Tents that he sits in whilst he's recording. Say hello to him. Tell him that you either bought the book, You saw it on Petanque Coach. I'm sure he'd be very, very pleased to help you with his many, many years of experience. And even his Facebook page is brilliant because it's got lots of stories, lots of anecdotes of the past and when he had different playing partners and when he was traveling all over France and playing. And they're really, really entertaining to read. So get Pierre's book. Let me know what you think of this in the comments of this review, what you think of this idea of me doing book reviews, whether you like what I'm saying, whether you dislike it, whether you've got some value from it. If you like this video, you will love this one.